During the walk-around, you must check several items which are part of the fuel system. These items are not major components, but a check of their condition is very important. Fuel can be measured manually by the magnetic fuel level indicators located in each fuel tank. We are looking at a magnetic fuel level indicator in the right inner tank. It should be flush with the aircraft surface. We are looking at the water drain valve in the right inner tank. Each tank has a water drain valve. You should check that there is no water leaking from the valve. If there is a leak, call maintenance. A refuel panel is located on the fuselage side beneath the right wing. You should check that the refuel panel access door is closed. A single refueling point is installed under the right wing. You should check that the refuel coupling door is closed. Note: another refueling point can be installed under the left wing as an option. A surge tank is connected to the outer tank in each wing tip. These small tanks protect the system against overpressure and thermal expansion. You cannot monitor or control surge tanks from the cockpit. The surge tank inlet should be clear of any blockage. There is also a shroud drain mast, which drains fuel that could leak from the system. You should check that there is no fuel leaking from the mast. The items related to the fuel system during the walk-around have all been seen. We will now discuss items related to the fuel system that you will encounter during cockpit preparation. To better illustrate what occurs in the fuel system, select the ECAM fuel page using the ECAM control panel. With the pumps in the off position, observe the symbology on the ECAM. The pumps are cross-line amber. During cockpit preparation, all white lights in the cockpit must be extinguished. Switch on left tank pump 1 and observe the ECAM indications. Left tank pump 1 on the ECAM fuel page is inline green, indicating that the pump is running. Continue by switching on left tank pump 2. Left tank pump 2 is now also running. Click on the forward arrow to finish switching the center and right tank pumps on. All the pumps are now running. Before you continue, you observe a message on the engine warning display. Click on the forward arrow to display the engine warning display. The message "Refueling" displayed on the engine warning display indicates that the refuel control panel door is open. Now let's continue the pre-flight by inserting the fuel weight in the MCDU. We have typed the fuel weight in the scratch pad for you. Note: you can insert the fuel weight in the MCDU while refueling is in progress. Enter the fuel weight in the MCDU. Click on the forward arrow to continue. A few minutes later, you observe that the refueling message on the engine warning display has disappeared, indicating that refueling is complete and the refueling control panel door is closed. Now that the fuel weight has been entered, let's verify the FOB. Note: the minimum fuel quantity for takeoff is 1500 kilograms. Verify that the fuel on board quantity on the engine warning display and on the ECAM fuel page corresponds to the fuel required by the computerized flight plan. Verify also the fuel distribution in the different tanks. It's now time to start the APU. Before we start it, notice that the APU low pressure valve is closed, crossline green, and the fuel line downstream from the low pressure valve is amber, indicating the APU is not running. We have started the APU for you. On the ECAM fuel page, you can see that the APU is running because the APU low pressure valve has opened, inline green, and the fuel line downstream is green. The items related to the fuel system during cockpit preparation have all been seen. We will now discuss items related to the fuel system that you will encounter during engine start. The indications and starting procedures are the same for both engines. In our example, we will start engine 2 first. Normally, during engine start, the ECAM engine page will be automatically displayed. For training purposes only, to better illustrate what occurs in the fuel system, the ECAM fuel page will be presented. Select the ECAM fuel page on the ECAM control panel. Before we start the engine, observe the following. The engine low pressure valves are cross-line amber to indicate closure. The fuel used quantities remain from the previous flight. Engine identification numbers are amber. This is because the engines are not running. On the engine warning display, the fuel flow, FF, indicates amber crosses. Engine 2 is starting. Observe, the low pressure valve is inline green. The fuel used indication automatically resets to 0. On the engine warning display, fuel flow starts. The engine identification number 2 changes to white. The gross weight, GW, has now appeared. Click on the forward arrow to start engine number 1. Engine 1 is starting. Observe, the low pressure valve is inline green. The fuel used indication automatically resets to 0. On the engine warning display, fuel flow starts. The engine identification number 1 changes to white. Observe the message, Center Tank Feeding, has appeared on the ECAM engine warning display. This indicates that the center tank pumps are feeding the engines. The items related to the engine start have all been seen. We will now discuss items related to the fuel system that you will encounter during taxi. When we extend the slats, you will see one of the automatic functions of the center tank pumps. Notice that the mode selector push-button switch is set to auto. Extend the slats and observe the indications. Observe the flaps extending, the message Center Tank Feeding disappears. On the ECAM fuel page, the center tank pumps are cross-line green, indicating that they have stopped running automatically. The inner tank pumps now feed the engines for takeoff. The items related to taxi have all been seen. We will now discuss items related to the fuel system that you will encounter during normal climb, cruise, and descent. You are in climb. The slats are now retracted. Observe the center tank feeding message reappears. This indicates, at slat's retraction, the center tank pumps are again feeding the engines. This is another automatic function of the center tank pumps with the mode selector push button in auto position. Select the ECAM fuel page on the ECP. Observe the corresponding pump indications on the ECAM, in line green. You are now in cruise. Notice the center tank feeding message has again disappeared, indicating that the center tank pumps have automatically shut off. However, the center tank is not empty and an auto function has again occurred. To explain why, we must look at fuel recirculation. Some fuel to the engines is diverted to cool the integrated drive generators, IDGs, then returns to the wing tanks. If the engines are fed from the center tank and the wing tanks are full, the center tank pumps automatically shut off. The inner tank pumps take over and feed the engines, so that there is room for fuel from the IDGs. After the inner tank pumps have fed approximately 500 kilograms of fuel, the center tank pumps automatically restart. You are in descent. To better illustrate the remaining indications, we will keep the ECAM fuel page displayed. The center tank pumps have automatically shut off, crossline green, because the center tank is empty. The inner tanks are now again feeding the engines. Let's see what happens when the inner tanks reach a low level. When either inner tank reaches a low level limit, both transfer valves open automatically, transferring fuel from the outer to the inner tanks. When at least one transfer valve is open, the message "Outer tank fuel transferred" is displayed on the engine warning display. Click on either outer tank and observe the fuel transferring. No, click on either outer tank on the ECAM fuel page. No, click on either outer tank on the ECAM fuel page. The fuel is now totally transferred and the outer tanks are empty. The items related to the fuel system during climb, cruise and descent have all been seen. We will now discuss items related to the fuel system that you will encounter post-flight. After the engines are shut down, the fuel pumps are switched off. Switch off left tank pump 1. Left tank pump 1 is off. Crossline amber. Continue by switching off left tank pump 2. Click on the forward arrow to finish switching the center and right tank pumps off. Observe the transfer valves remain open. They will be automatically closed during the next refueling operation.